All right, there we go. Let's kick this thing off. Obviously, you guys just watched. Giants just lost 28-3 to division rivals, the Eagles. They came up I-95 and then completely handled business. We have one of our New York Post sports writers, Jared Schwartz, in the building, in the not the building, but in the live stream right now. Uh, Jared, I just got finished, walking off of the field. The mood in the stadium is absolutely putrid. I have never seen the stadium like this. The morale, the fans, everyone's just upset. You watched it. You're going to write a lot of articles about it. Kind of give us your thoughts, man, and let's talk to kick this thing off.
I mean, one thing stands out to me that really kind of encompasses, everything else. The day that Saquon Barkley returns to MetLife Stadium with the Eagles and really torches his ex-team in the Giants is the same day Daniel Jones is benched, by the Giants. We all know the backstory there. We know the Giants opted to pay Daniel Jones
Hey,
instead of.
Jared, check to see if you're on mute because I can't hear you. Check to see if you're on mute. Are you on mute? I don't know if we can hear you or not. No, I can't hear you, bro. I wonder what's going on. Why I can't hear you? I wonder if the fans and all can hear you. We're checking it now, but go ahead, keep talking. Go ahead, keep giving your thoughts and stuff, and then we'll wrap.
I just think it's fitting that the day that Saquon Barkley returns to MetLife Stadium with the Eagles is the same day that Daniel Jones is benched for the first time this season, and it might be when we first see perhaps a quarterback change with the Giants this season. It was ugly. I mean, it's some of the worst offensive football that you can play. At certain points, they struggle to get first downs. They couldn't pass the ball, they couldn't run the ball. First game without Andrew Thomas, the offensive line had been pretty solid this season. Before that, falls apart. Daniel Jones was sacked 7 times. It's just not a recipe for success. And the defense has played well. The defense has stood up, but it's not sustainable. It's at a certain point they'll fold. At a certain point, they'll just give out, and at a certain point, it's too much when they're on the field so much. So look, it's all around bad football, and this is why the Giants find themselves here.
Keep going, Jared. Keep going.
Um,
Okay, now I got you. Now I got you. Now I got you. There we go. My fault. I had some technical difficulties on my side. I'm in the performers locker room right now, man. So the Wi-Fi got spotty, and I just finished wrap up the last 2 or 3 sentences, and I'll respond.
I was just touching on it's fitting the day that Saquon Barkley returns to MetLife Stadium with the Eagles and tortures his old team. It's the same day Daniel Jones is benched for the first time this season, and we could perhaps see a change at quarterback going forward. Brian Dable will be answering those questions as we speak right now. It's the same old script. Offense can't score, defense hangs in, and eventually it's too much. And the fans started the game booing Saquon, they ended the game booing their own team.
Yeah, and it's completely unfortunate. I mean, you just look at all the hype that came into this game. From the people, the producers and the executive producers of Hard Knocks off season or free agency or whatever struck gold because this situation we knew was going to be talked about all throughout the summer, all throughout training camp. And then as we came into this week with Saquon saying, I don't know if I'm going to get booed or not, and everything that was going on with Nick Sirianni and him going at Eagles fans and, the Giants just needing that spark, wanting that spark. It's unfortunate, like you said, that they stopped booing Saquon and then booed the entire team and Daniel, because if you look at the Hard Knock situation, the Giants paid Daniel over Saquon. Wasn't able to get any explosive plays on offense in terms of the Giants side. But, you saw the Eagles. They had big play after big play. If we look at these numbers, Daniel Jones, 14 for 21, 99 yards. Saquon Barkley, 17 carries, $177, and a touchdown. And he could have had 2. Could have had 2 in a day, but he was absolutely but he was kind of ran down. And you knew it was going to be a problem. You knew something was going down at the beginning of the game on that third down where he caught it out the backfield. He didn't get the first, but he ran through someone's chest. And that showed Saquon came in and showed that he was going to play. But on the flip side, at the beginning of the game, the Giants defense had him bottled up.
Look, we all saw it over the summer in Hard Knocks when John Mara said, he's going to have a rough time sleeping if Saquon Barkley, went to the Eagles. He better have some melatonin tonight. How is he going to sleep after that? Look, like you said, the Giants did do a decent job early. There was the one big run early in the first quarter, but other than that, there was, they give 14 points at halftime. That's not terrible. But when your offense is so inept, when your offense can't, put together drives and string together first downs and give your defense, 5-10 minutes just to rest and reset. Look, the Eagles are talented. Eventually, they're going to break through. Eventually, A.J. Brown is going to be too good for Nick McLeod. Eventually, you give Saquon Barkley so many touches. We know he's talented. He's going to break through. Look, I mean, if you want to take a positive, Dexter Lawrence, 2 more sacks. He leads the league in sacks. The defense held up for a half, but it's just, I'm hard strung, for any other positives other than that.
I just said it, and people can tell me I'm crazy. This would be a top 10 defense if this team was able to play complementary football and the offense was able to put points on the board. Because it goes back to when I interviewed Brian Burns in the locker room for our Blue Rush preview show. And he was talking about going after Geno Smith that game. And he said it all starts with stopping the run first. He's like, you got to you got to earn the right to rush. But it also, what can help you as a pass rush, as a defense, is an offense that goes and scores. Not just 3 points, kicking 5 field goals, not just, a team that's missing field goals, in another home loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, but a team that goes down and puts points on the board, because now that puts pressure on another offense.
And also the ability to play ahead. Defenses, when you're up by a touchdown, when you're up by 2 touchdowns, now the other team has to pass the ball. Now you can put in all your pass rushers. You can pin your ears back and sacrifice some of those run stopping, responsibilities. But, how often this year has this defense played with a lead? How often this year has Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns, and before he was hurt, Kayvon Thibodeau, and since he's stepped up pretty well, Azeez Ojulari, how many times have they been able to play up a touchdown, up 2 touchdowns, and it's not a winning formula. It's not a winning formula. We wrote at the Post this week that they have to be pretty careful that there's not a split forming, that the defense is playing good enough to win games and the offense is not, and the defense and the offense don't sort of form a little split in the locker room. And I don't think that's formed yet, but things change, and we'll see how they handle the quarterback situation here. Daboll will be answering those questions, I'm sure, right now or very soon, and I'm sure he won't give his answer today. He'll stick with it throughout the week. But
one more thing before we go in and talk about, because there's so much from this game, even though there's still like a stench in everyone's in mouth, like a bad taste left in everyone's mouth, because everything that was right there in front of the Giants, a chance to beat a wounded eagle, a team that was what looks like in the storylines in the media is in some sort of disarray within
exactly
themselves.
You say that the Eagles came in as a wounded team. They have been struggling. There's been a lot of criticism in Philadelphia on their sports talk radio, in their newspapers, on their on their TV stations, about Jalen Hurts, about Nick Sirianni, about that thing he was doing with fans. And, this struggling Eagles team comes into MetLife and puts up 28 points and gives up 3. It's the Giants are the get right team for everybody else at this point.
And that right there, if you're a player and you hear that should put some sort of pep in your step. Now, does it do anything? Because it's hard to just turn it on. Like everyone's like, when are they going to turn it on? When are they going to turn it on? Some teams can do it, because they're talented. Some teams can do it because they're well coached. Some teams can do it because it's just like, we started the season off trying to figure out what makes things work for us. And then it kind of turns on and starts clicking. I'm wondering where is this team at when it comes to turning it on and starting something, because it's getting late early.
One thing that I find interesting is why can't they play at home? Look, their two best games this year were at Cleveland, at Seattle. Far away from home. Daniel Jones's two best games were at Seattle, at Cleveland.
And you can even throw the Washington game in there.
Yeah, at Washington. If they have a kicker, they win that game probably. So their three best games this year come on the road. Daniel Jones, for his career, has been better on the road than at home. What is going on there? Is there something toxic with the fan base and the team? Are they afraid of being booed? Are they do they have a different mindset on the road than at home?
There's zero excuse. There's no better than me. There's no answer, Jared. There's zero answer for it, man. And like, people are going to be like, oh, as a player, you don't need bulletin board material. You shouldn't need, we're home, we're away. Sometimes when you're on the way, you're in an away game, you like it more because you take that Draymond Green type energy. I'm the villain. Let's go in there. Let's pee in somebody's cereal, send them home with an L, get on the plane. And you see the videos when they go on the road and beat a team, walk in your trap and take over your trap. But then they get to their own trap, and it's like,
there's no, it's
their trap is a trap. And that is unfortunate. And there is zero excuse for that. Like, you're supposed to be playing for the crowd. You're supposed to be making plays. This is where your jersey gets sold. And this is where you become a legend here. You can get commercials. You can eat for free. I mean, you see it with Giancarlo Stanton and the guys on the Yankees putting on in the playoffs, at home, in the Bronx, coming up with big plays. This is the place to do it. But on the flip side, Jared, it's also not every player can play here.
You contrast, we've both been to some of these playoff games, at Citi Field and Yankee Stadium. The energy, obviously it's a playoff game and it's different, but just the energy that emits from from the fans to the field, it's just a completely different situation. And, when you kind of go away from just the bulletin and the rah-rah and like, just getting up and, when you look at this roster, I think most people think there should be some talent on this roster.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, we know a lot of people just point to Daniel Jones, and say he's the root of all problems, but it's clearly not just Daniel Jones. We could talk for an hour about Daniel Jones and what that means, but today, first game without Andrew Thomas at left tackle, Josh Ezeudu steps up. It wasn't all him, obviously, but the offensive line crumbles. One game without Andrew Thomas, they give up 7 sacks. Ezeudu struggles. 8 sacks. Sorry,
Google has 8. Google has 8.
So the offensive line crumbles. The first game without Andrew Thomas. Then you look at the unit. Josh Ezeudu, who's stepping in for Andrew Thomas, is a 3rd-round pick by Joe Schoen. The center, John Michael Schmitz, who I know he gave up a sack and he got called for that ineligible man downfield that negated a big play. 2nd-round pick by Joe Schoen. Evan Neal, his 1st-round pick, is a 3rd stringer not on the field. You look at Wan'Dale Robinson. He had a big drop today on a 3rd down that that could have moved the chains at an important part of the game. Deonte Banks, did he hold himself strong against A.J. Brown and then the Eagles pass catchers, today? I'm not so sure about that. There's a lot of, at this point, Joe Schoen has been able to put his fingerprints on the team a decent amount, and we're not seeing any impact from that fingerprint yet.
But I've always thought that this team is more talented or has more talent on it than the 2022 playoff team. You think about it. Who was one of your leading receivers that season?
I think
Richie James was a leading receiver.
And Isaiah Hodgins was coming up.
Isaiah Hodgins.
I think objectively it's the same quarterback. The offensive line is definitely better.
Pass rush, defensively.
Yeah, the pass rush, if you want to look at it positive, the Giants are right up there with the best in pass rush this year in terms of sacks, in terms of disrupting the quarterback. The Giants should have a better secondary this year. They've invested more in terms of Newbin. I guess, they had McKinney back then, but, Newbin, Banks, they Flott, they've
Penix
invested
played well.
in that position. They have Okereke now, who, was a big free agent signing last year.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the same. It's a better team this year than 2022. But the mindset is just something about, I don't know if it's the mindset or what it is. Is it a stronger strength of schedule? What is it?
I mean, a little bit is just the margins of the league. That year, I think they had the smallest, point differential of any playoff team.
Yeah.
They won so many games by, just a couple points. This year, they've dropped two games already by a couple points. We already talked about Washington. If they have a healthy kicker, they probably win that game.
Yeah.
The Dallas game is a very tight margin. They had multiple chances to win.
Yeah.
2022, those were 2 wins. 2024, those are 2 losses, and they find themselves at 2-5, and they can talk as much as they want about not still being in it, or there's a lot in front of them. And look, the NFC East is not strong this year. Dallas has had its problems. The Eagles had their problems before this week. Washington is on the come up, but I don't think anybody thinks they're a juggernaut just yet. But look, you're 2-5. You can't say you're in it until you can show you can win 2 games in a row.
Jared, I'm gonna hit some of these comments, man. We thank you guys for rocking with us. This is your New York Postgame Live, Blue Rush. Brandon London here, Jared Schwartz in the building with me, or in the Zoom room, whatever you call this. Aiden Fink says, I don't understand the offensive line's poor play after how consistent they were all year. It wasn't just Andrew Thomas's absence. And I absolutely agree with that. Because AT is down does not mean that the Giants should give up 8 sacks, Jared.
What stood out to me was John Michael Schmitz. I thought, he had been showing some improvement from last year early in the season, and I thought he really took a step back today. He got beat for, a sack. He was supposed to come around and to the right side and pull to the right side, and he got beat. And then later, I forget who it was to, but Jones had a nice completion for about 15 yards, and he was flagged for an eligible man downfield. And he's a second-round pick in year 2, and he was, a high second-round pick last year. He's someone who spent 6 years at Minnesota, so he was supposed to be someone who can, step in and be ready to play right away. And so far, he's, by all metrics, by all, Pro Football Focus grades, or by all statistics, he's, a bottom-tier center. And, like, to me, that just goes back to the roster building. Is that talent there? That investment that Shane has made hasn't really, especially through the draft, has not, materialized.
And I would say what didn't help the offensive line in terms of pass blocking is the fact that they couldn't get going in the run blocking, in the run game. We talk about the Eagles. I think they came into week 7 as a defense with the second most missed tackles in the NFL. They give it up. They'll give it up on the ground. But again, it's another week where the Giants offense goes in against defense that is towards the NFL's bottom. We saw it with the run defense of the Cowboys. We saw it with the overall defense of the Cincinnati Bengals, and weren't able to get anything going. So when we talk about first, second, third down, if they're able to go 2 high safeties and keep guys over the top, because you're going to want to take a shot with Neighbors or Slayton. If you can rush 4 and get there and cause some sort of havoc, even worse, if you can rush 4 and stop the run, it is going to be a nightmare for a quarterback in an offense when it comes to the passing game, 3rd and 8+, third and not manageable, 3rd and long, I guess, what you can call it. So I didn't think the offensive line was that bad in the sense of someone just got outright beat and, was up in Daniel's face. It was more of some coverage sacks in there, but that's because you can't run them out of 2 high safety. Lawrence England says bad coaching. I wouldn't necessarily, that's something I'm gonna have to go back and watch the tape on. When the first half, you got to give Shane Bowen, his credit in the defense. Shane Bowen, defensive coordinator, they're sacked 4 first half sacks. That's big time. those two big plays, and we've seen it in the Cowboys game with CeeDee Lamb, so with the Joe Burrow run, there's always that big play that happens against this defense that just kind of unravels absolutely everything, and that's because they're on the field way too much.
And one thing that actually about coaching that stood out to me, it wasn't one of the big plays, actually, one of those big Saquon Barkley or A.J. Brown plays, but it was 4th and 2 late in the game, and the Eagles were going for it. It was 4th and 2 on the 5-yard line, I believe. And they dropped 8 in coverage, and they only rushed 3. And then, Hurts had all day, and then he basically just waltzed for a first down. The 8 in coverage basically waited in front of the end zone. And to me, it looked like they were guarding the end zone instead of the first down line. It was a 4th and 2. They could pick up a first down and then get, their first and goal. And to me, that was a weird, almost looked like they didn't know what the situation was, or they didn't, understand what the responsibility was. It was almost like they didn't know Jalen Hurts could just waltz in for 3 yards and pick up.
Oh yeah, I remember you're talking about. Yes,
It was a 4th and 2, and then he picks up the first down, and then he just did the push and snuck in. But I think it was still a 2-score game at that point. You get a 4th down stop there, and I'm not saying they're going to score, but it's those little moments. You could coach a really good game, but they have such a letdown in a big moment like that. It's confusing.
And it's unfortunate because the NFL is created for offenses, but to still have such a solid defense, I don't think anyone can look at this Giants defense and be like,
"Don't tell." I mean, you say it's created for offense, and you look at the Giants offense, and it looks like they're on a different rule book than anybody else. And just with the coaching, with bad coaching. It is Brian Daboll calling plays, and it's either, is it Daniel Jones holding him back? Is it him not elevating Daniel Jones?
Well, let's go there. Let's go there before we close it out, because this is what the people want to. This is what they want to hear. Barry McCockinier says, "I cannot watch another Daniel Jones-led offense. It makes me want to die." Where else are you going to go? Where else are you going to go?
That's my point. And look, we can talk all we want about the contract, but I think most people were on board at the time with Daniel Jones getting the contract. He was injured most of last year, and then that's why they find themselves with him this year. And look, where else do you go? Over the offseason, they could have drafted Bo Nix. They could have drafted J.J. McCarthy. They could have drafted Michael Penix. The Bo Nix had mixed results, but the Broncos are, I believe, 4-3.
Yeah.
Look, 2 years ago, I don't think most fans wanted them to let Daniel Jones walk and sign Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo or trade for Aaron Rodgers, or they weren't in position to draft one, and I don't think most people wanted them to turn to one of those free agents. And look. They can go to Drew Lock. I mean, fans always love Tommy DeVito and Tommy Cutlets. And, it was only 2 series, but Drew Lock didn't look good today. Obviously this offseason is where you could really, really start talking about, where you go with quarterback going forward and stuff like that. But, at this point, it's Jones, Lock, or Tommy DeVito. And, a lot of fans will say Tommy DeVito. They won 3 games with him last year. They won a primetime game. So, it's hard to argue with that. Judging what they've scored 10 points in 2 games, it's hard to argue that anybody is not a better option than what they have right now.
I mean, I look at it as it should be an open quarterback battle. I think you throw Tommy Cutlets in there because I just off of what he did last year, see if he's gotten better and he looked okay in the preseason, but then again it's preseason. You're not game planning for anyone, and you're throwing to, Bryce Ford Wheaton when you in the game, you're throwing to Malik Neighbors, and that, no disrespect to Bryce Ford Wheaton. I don't want him to think he caught a stray just now or anything, but Malik Neighbors is a 6th pick of the draft for a reason. So you saw Drew Lock, you wanted him, or I guess there were a lot of fans when he got into the game that wanted to see him move the offense, move the ball down the field, but there were throws in the ground. There were throws behind guys. He threw a nice ball to Jalen Hyatt. Jalen Hyatt dropped it got injured.
He's another person when you talk about the roster. Third round pick, someone they traded up in the third round of last year's draft. He basically doesn't play. He basically doesn't have a role. I think he has either 0 or 1 catch this year. So.
I'm a I don't want to end on a negative or anything, but Lexi James says it. 1 TD at home this all season. You cannot defend that. And I'm the Giants MC. I'm all over the Jumbotron, and I'm not gonna say, fire Daniel, cut Daniel Jones or anything, but in our business, in this high production business, you got to go out there and you got to produce 1 touchdown at home. So now Coach Dable, Coach Kafka, Joe Shane, everyone's going to have to sit down, I believe, and collectively have a meeting with owner and talk about, hey, if we're going to save the season, or if we're going to try and make some sort of run, what is our best option at quarterback? And if you're Mr. Mara and I ask you, what do we do, John? What do you say, Jared?
I think you got to look at the quarterback situation, and I think it's almost unfair not to make a change at this point. And look, whether it's Locke or DeVito, I would be inclined. The depth chart says Locke. I've always been a fan of DeVito.
I go DeVito.
He's won 3. He won 3 games last year. The Giants scored some points in those games.
Keep the fan base,
and he does have. He's got some moxie that is infectious in the locker room. He's kind of got that swagger. And you talk about you being the MC. It must be incredibly difficult these days. You're trying to get fans pumped up with nothing to get pumped up for. Tommy DeVito is someone who gets fans in the seats, and because he's from New Jersey, because of his Italian heritage, does get fans excited. I can't argue that that's not better than what they have going right now.
I'm not gonna lie. I tried a chicken cutlet for the first time in my life last year after all the buzz and all that. I didn't know what to. I walked in, was like, I get a chicken cutlet because everybody's talking about it. If
they're gonna lose anyway, you might as well have a quarterback that introduces you to new foods.
Sell some tickets. But this is unfortunate, man. And it's like, we're laughing and all right now, but it's just it's getting old. Like this is getting old. And everyone, if you're in the comments and all right now, you know what I do for the team. My background with the team, and I'm not just gonna come on. You fire him. You fire him. This is hurting, man. Like I love football. Like I love this franchise, this organization, and I'm with these fans, and you can see it in their faces, man. These guys, these men, these women, these kids are like what, Brandon? What is going on here? And I'm sitting here like.
And
I don't know.
As they're reeling at 2-5, people will naturally shift to just tank for the quarterback and stuff, and then just lose and look for draft position. But when you're there on a game day, you see how much is put into it. You see how much is put, not just from the players, but the fans, the staff, the just all the money spent. All the energy and effort that's spent to every game day. They deserve better. They deserve better not to have people wanting to tank and wanting them to lose and booing their own team. And it's also, it's not new. It's not new. Like it's, this is who the Giants have been for a decade, save for 2 seasons that have been outliers. 2016 and 2022. Other than that, they've been a bottom team in the league.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, man, because fan base definitely deserves better than the product that's on there. But at the end of the day, man, like, again, the player in me is like, let's get back let's watch this film. Let's strip this thing. Let's get back on the practice field, man, because I was around Antonio Pierce. I was with Plax today, man. Plax hugging on me and stuff. Like, I'm proud of you, bro. Like I was around these guys,
Do they have
around that era?
Do they have the people in the locker room right now, the Antonio Pierces, the leaders, the guy that will, after a game like today, will get in people's face and say, this is not acceptable. This expletive is not.
I think you do, but it's getting old.
Yeah.
Dexter, interior defensive lineman is leading the league, or at least tied for the league in sacks. That's Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald type stuff.
If it wasn't for so much losing, Dexter Lawrence would be talked about, as a Hall of Fame type, trajectory, elite, we never see a guy this big do these type of things, sort of things. And look, he had 2 more sacks today and they lost by 25 points. So,
Yeah. He'd
he
be
can,
doing national commercials.
yeah, he's doing his, he could get in the middle of the room and say all he wants. He's going to perform, he's going to get there and dominate the defensive line. But
it ain't about him, it's about the guys. So he out of 53, he's the best out of 50, best player on the team. It's about 52 down. And Brian Burns, you showing up. The dude's got one growing. He's playing out there.
At a certain point, there's as much yelling as you can do. If your offense can't, you can't yell your offense into scoring more than 3 points or scoring more than a touchdown. It's just that's talent and execution.
Absolutely, man. We're gonna end that there. Jared, thanks for hopping on with us, man. Thank you guys, the fans. We're looking at the comments right there, man. Like, we appreciate the love. Appreciate you rocking out with us. Thanks for watching the post-game live show from the New York Post. This is Blue Rush. Check in Monday because we're going to be talking to Paul Schwartz so Paul can break down everything that happened in the locker room, everything he saw from the press box. So check into the New York Post tomorrow. We got some great content coming for you guys. As always, from London, Jared Schwartz. Thanks for watching.